Carolyn Dube here. What's the play for today? Well, today I am taking a picture frame that was damaged because the glass was gone, the pictures are gone, the backs are gone, but for some reason I was hanging on to this, and you know what? It was time to either throw it away or do something with it. And so I took it from sort of this reddish, cherry, brownish kind of look of a frame into something just a little more colorful. Now, along the way, yes, there were oops, and the one at the end, though, was absolutely my favorite one because it got me to do something I totally didn't think of that I'm so glad I did. And you'll also find out in the video why I like to do messy stenciling sometimes, why it was so handy on this one to do some messy stuff. Well, anyway, enough of my talking. Come check out the video that I've made for this week's Let's Play Link Party. Well, here's that picture frame. Yep, glass is gone, photos are gone, backs are gone, but for some reason I was hanging on to it, and it's time for me to either throw this away or do something to it. So I'm going to choose to add a little color to it. That sort of brownish red color, yeah, not really my favorite color lately. So I am going to just cover this all with gesso. And as you can see, I'm not being that careful or that precise. It's just gesso. It's just acting like a primer. That way my paint will have something to stick to easily, and it'll also lighten up that background because having such a dark brownish reddish color will not work as well with my super bright colors that I like. So this is also kind of giving me a whiter base, and it's giving me a way for the paint to stick to it more easily, because that's really the point of gesso, is make it so that paint sticks to it. Now, I'm not doing a very careful job with this. You can see that I've actually gotten gesso on the hinges, and that'll be fine. The hinges all still work. I'm all good with it. And I'm just going to get gesso over all of the surfaces, the sides, inside all the little nooks and crannies, and then I'm going to be ready to go on and add some color. I did not let this dry at all. I'm working on it while it's damp because, well, I don't feel like waiting for it to dry, and I don't feel like getting out a heat gun. But an interesting thing there is I'm playing in that cobalt teal paint there. I'm using a heavy body paint, but there's also that dark blue right next to it. The dark blue was actually the first color that I picked out. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to use this. And watch throughout this whole process, I don't think I use it a bit. And is that going to be a mistake? Absolutely not. I'm allowed to change my mind. I'll just call it an oops. It is somehow an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly that I put out that little bit of blue that I'm never going to use on this project, I believe. Well, here's what it looks like with the entire coat of paint on here. And by the way, I didn't wait for a thing to dry. This is all still damp paint, which will be important later on. So just keep in mind, I'm not waiting for things to dry. And with this, I've got the entire rainbow over there because I frankly couldn't decide which color I wanted. So I decided to just put them all out there and give myself some choices. Taking just a plain old paintbrush, I am randomly smearing this in different places. Not thinking a whole lot about it, really following some impulses, because you know what? This is play. I am not actually trying to do something that is a feat of engineering. I am just putting paint on a picture frame I was going to throw away. Now, I was loving how this was looking until the orange came along, and that's when I went, oops. It is such an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly, though, because to hide the orange, I wanted to create a lot more layers and a lot more variation in the layers. So I turned to stencils. Well, why stencils? Because I'm able to get all sorts of different patterns or shapes on here very quickly and easily. And it doesn't matter what size stencil I'm using. You can see I'm using a large stencil here, but just using parts of it. And just from this little bit, I can already tell that I'm going to be much happier with this because it's going to make the orange disappear a little bit, get buried inside the different layers of patterns and color and shapes and that kind of thing. Well, now I'm going to bring in a smaller stencil, and this one has very small detailed areas, and notice how much paint I'm using. I'm obscuring the pattern if I use a lot of paint. If I use less paint and I'm more delicate, you see more of the pattern. And what I want to do is just have a variation of different things on here. So some of them I want to have a lot of paint, some of them I want to have less paint. And the reason why I'm doing this, okay, so here's confession time. Because this picture frame is at an angle, like the sides, you can see the different levels where the lines are going around the frame. Nothing's going to go flat and perfectly there. So I'm not going to make things perfect. That way I don't have to worry about trying to make it perfect on the places where it won't fit. And I'm just going to keep adding color and pattern in different places until I feel like it's filled in as much as I want it to be. Because remember, my original goal was to obscure or cover up that orange or make it look like it belonged, and that's what I'm working on. So I'm going to use small patterns, larger patterns, just a great big assortment. And whenever you're working on something like this, don't be afraid to turn it upside down because things do look different when you flip them around. Oh, and the stencils. I haven't even told you which stencils I'm using. I guess I should do that. The first one, which was rectangular patterns from Play that I designed. The next one was Doodle It Inchy by Maria. And this one with the triangles, that's by Ray. And so I'm just adding bits and pieces here and there. Sometimes it shows up really boldly, and sometimes it's a wonderful, subtle, little background kind of thing. And you can see that I'm not being very careful. I'm not being very precise. And this is what makes me happiest when I'm playing. Now, if you're a person that really likes precision and detail, and that's what makes you happiest when you play, then by all means, play in the way that brings you the most joy and happiness. And by the way, why am I using something that I would have thrown away for my play today? Well, that's because it's the theme for this month's Let's Play. And through all of this year, I'm focusing on how you can play. And one of the ways that I make sure that I can play is by using things that aren't precious to me. I'm going to take that pressure off. And something I was going to throw away, well, clearly it's not precious to me because it was about to become trash. And Let's Play isn't just about my play, it's about your play too. Each week there's a link party where you can share what you've been creating, which, by the way, it can be on the theme or challenge or it can be on anything that you want because play is just meant to be play. And you can find all the details and link up your play and get entered in the giveaway over on the blog at acolorfuljourney.com. And there should be a link either down below or on the screen about now. So here's where I'm at. I'm about finished with the stenciling, but I've got lots of paint left over on my palette. So I am just going to grab a brush and kind of smear some more paint around in places, looking to see if there's anywhere that I didn't quite cover enough. I'm going to really lift it up and look around those side slats. Those still just had mostly blue on them or the teal. So I'm just going to start putting some color in different places, definitely going for the random thing, and also trying to use up whatever paint I can off of my paint palette. And again, notice I haven't waited for anything to dry, and that means sometimes things smear. I'm okay with that because it's not like this looks like it's a neat and precise and tidy kind of picture frame, right? Now, I love to put writing on things, so I am grabbing a fine liner, and this is basically an empty bottle that comes filled with paint. Over on the blog, I'll have a link to you for a video that I've made about how to use and fill the fine liners and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically a way for me to write on wet paint without ruining any kind of pen. And I'm just really loosely scribble writing all around this. And every now and then I will clog up the tip because I'm squishing up there as I'm writing some of the paint from the frame. And if I just put the cap back on, that opens it back up and it works right away. Now, notice what's happening here is some of the picture frame is showing through because I was scratching a little too hard as I was writing. And because I'm also working with paint that I didn't let dry. Now, am I going to call this the end of the world, a mistake, a horror? Absolutely not. This is an oops. This is one of those benefits of having sort of a messy, layered, mixed media kind of feel to this. I'm just going to write right over it, and the only people that will know about it is you and me. Now, the backs of these frames disappeared a long time ago, so I cut some cardboard to the size that I needed, and I'm going to use up some of the paint on my palette so nothing gets wasted, and I'm just going to cover those with a color. That way they'll go in it, and I hadn't planned on really doing that, but I'm really liking the possibility with it. Now keep in mind, everything here is wet. I'm working with wet paint. I'm smearing wet paint onto the paper underneath me, so little bits of paint are transferring, and that's going to be important in just a moment. I'm coming in with another fine liner to add some lines, some dots, some dribbles, some whatever I feel like it, because I felt like it just needed more. As if I hadn't put enough stuff on this, I wanted even more. And since this is play, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a matter, am I having fun? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? So if I want to put more on it, I'm going to put more on it. So here it is, all finished. I've put those pieces of cardboard in there. And notice that smear there. You might even notice the gloss on some of the paint, that it's still actually wet. That smear of blue up there, is that the end of the world? Is it a mistake? No, it is an absolute oops. Absolute opportunity presenting suddenly, because what I do with this, I hadn't thought about it until I saw that. And I'm like, you know what? If I've got one smear over there, let me put a smear over here. As I put that smear in the corner there with the yellow, I decided I really like that. And I started doing more of it. A lot of times when I make what I used to call a mistake, ends up getting me to do something that I hadn't thought of that is far better than what I had in my mind. And now these pieces of painted cardboard, they actually fit the frame even better than they did before. Well, thanks for joining me for today's play. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll never miss when I have a new video. And head on over to the blog at acolorfuljourney.com and join in the fun at the Let's Play link party. Share what you're making, leave a comment and get entered for the giveaway. And of course, thank you so much for being a part of this colorful journey.